Part 17. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyubuladin Chigwa. Chapter 161. Mania is a mood disorder characterized by elevated mood, racing thoughts, and increased activity, as well as irritability and increased volitional behavior. The causes are usually related to genetics, neuroendocrine disorders, and stressful events. Ignoring the patient's words, Shen Jian walked in on his own. He also held a medical record in his hand. It belongs to the patient number 22 in front of me. It records some of the factors that caused the disease and the treatments that have been adopted. But all are ineffective. On the contrary, it makes the other party more agitated. The jail time was increased from 8 hours to 12 hours, and then to 20 hours. Finally, he was completely imprisoned. Because in the riot that occurred in the mental hospital, this patient was the most aggressive. So I would like to propose a 24-hour package. But this does not affect Shen Jian's treatment. During the onset of the disease, patients are highly emotional, irritable, and prone to attack others. The treatments that can be adopted include drug treatment, electroconvulsive treatment, psychological treatment. To sum up, the treatment method I want to adopt is psychotherapy, by creating rewarding and punitive reflex conditions to achieve the goal of complete cure. Short name, dog training. Shen Jian explained his treatment methods on the cases. Then, he closed the door and locked it. Patient No 22. Human, do you want to die? Seeing this person talking to himself and ignoring her at all, patient number 22 suddenly became furious, with a trace of distortion on his furious face. He opened the quilt, grabbed a piece of broken glass the size of a palm, and let his palm be crushed. Cut was indifferent and just stared at Shen Jian. Shen Jian's face was expressionless. He already knew something about patient 22's behavior of not launching a supernatural attack but grabbing broken glass like a little girl. This is the latest research result of Huan Quan Bing Dong, a drug that can effectively suppress evil spirits. From red-clad ghosts to lonely wild ghosts, as long as they drink the medicine, their supernatural powers will be suppressed and they will turn into ordinary ghosts with the body of a ghost but no supernatural power. Of course, this drug is very expensive. It will only be used on extremely aggressive patients. Unfortunately, patient number 22 is among them. The terror that belonged to the Tsingyi level ghost was gone. Patient, calm down. The older generation often say that you get older quickly when you are angry. If you continue to be so angry, I am afraid it will cause very bad things. As Shen Jian spoke, he came to the other party and persuaded him in a deep voice. Bad thing? He, you will encounter something reported now. Patient number 22 smiled solemnly and suddenly pounced on him. The glass in his hand had already touched Shen Jian's neck. Shen Jian sighed. His eyes were full of disappointment. The other party's lack of understanding of the situation disappointed him. So, Shen Jian moved slightly. The moment the opponent rushed forward, he slapped him in the face. Snapped. The crisp sound of big pussy echoed. This patient, please control your emotions. Patient No 22. You dare to hit me? You, a human, dare to hit me? You, a doctor, dare to beat a patient openly? Oh. This place is locked by the other party. You can't see what's going on inside at all. It turns out that this is what locking the door means. Patient number 22 was stunned for a moment. More manic. You hit me and then told me to calm down? I'll calm you down, uncle. Ah. Human, I'm going to kill you. Infuriated by this big dick, the thin woman number 22 became even more crazy. So. Snap pop. This time she received 2 big blows. One left and one right. As the initiator, Shen Jian looked worried. On the 22nd, Calm down quickly. If this continues, bad things will continue to happen. Number 22. The bad thing you said was just slapping me in the face? You are playing with me. You. Patient number 22 stayed longer this time. His mouth just opened and he had not yet uttered a complete sentence. Snap pop pop. Shen Jian's big mouth twitched again. Number 22. I didn't even say anything, so you just smoked? What if I want to beg for mercy? Are you sure that I will continue to resist when you go around with your big dick several times in a row, so you'll do it after you've done it? The Geneva Convention should let you write it. Number 22, how are you feeling now? Have you calmed down? Shen Jian asked again. As soon as these words came out, patient number 22 couldn't take it anymore. Damn it, damn it. She lowered her head and murmured in defiance. The blood vessels on the skin became more and more obvious, and the fair arms became stiff and blue little by little. She is gradually regaining her supernatural power. You deserve to die. Number 22 suddenly raised his head, a deathly gray face filled with strangeness, and a pair of eyes turned up hard. Slowly, only the whites of the eyes were left. An extremely depressing and cold atmosphere gradually filled the air. Snapped. A crisp slap interrupted her transformation. Shen Jian shouted sternly, Number 22, calm down. If this continues, I cannot guarantee your life safety. Number 22. This time, she was completely confused. The pale pupils recovered little by little. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something. But looking at Shen Jian's shining face, she couldn't say a word. See this? Shen Jian rubbed her little face with concern, and said with great distress, Number 22, how are you feeling now? Do you still have that irritable feeling in your heart? The thin woman endured Shen Jian's workplace harassment and shook her head blankly. Okay, it seems like it's gone. She didn't finish her words. Then he saw Shen Jian subconsciously raise his right hand, and then put it down with regret. What the hell are you? Shen Jian put down his hand with great regret. After thinking for a while, he asked again, are you really not angry at all? I just slapped you so many times, and you don't hold grudges against me. Hear this. There was clearly some deep hatred in No 22's eyes, but in order not to be slapped, she gritted her teeth and shook her head. No, I don't hold grudges. Shen Jian's eyes lit up. It seems that your current condition is still not stable enough. I still need to carry out the next stage of treatment for you. Number 22 looked up with a horrified look. I'm already like this, why do you still want to cause trouble for me? You devil. The effects of psychotherapy have begun to show results here. Next, we need to rely on electroconvulsive treatment. However, the conditions here are effective, and you are restricted from traveling. It seems that you can only use other things instead for convulsive treatment. Shen Jian popularizes science. Don't worry, there are only doctors and patients here. I'm just treating you in the diagnostic stage. Don't get carried away. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 162. The treatment of patient number 22 has come to an end. Next, she only needs to stay in the hospital for observation for a few days, and then continue to undergo electroconvulsive therapy for a few times to help the patient change her impression of men, and then she can be discharged. In this regard, Shen Jian, a kind-hearted doctor, is very happy to help. That's all. Shen Jian began to look for the next ghost. The main target is still focused on the 4 ghosts who led the riot in the first place. After these 4 ghosts are eliminated and the source of the riot is gone, the mental hospital cannot be said to be restored to its original state, but maintaining it in a stable state is not a problem. Among them, manic patient number 22 is one of them. Next up is the second one. It's patient number 13. Shen Jian took out a case. Patient No. 13. Location, room 404 on the 4th floor. Description: this patient suffers from severe persecution delusion. He always thinks that someone is harming him in order to prevent others from hurting him. He kills these people first. It is recommended not to get close to him, as this will arouse his rebellious psychology and make him believe that someone is trying to harm him. After reading the information, Shen Jian already knew it in his heart. He pushed open the door to room 404. A vigilant ghost crouched in the corner. When he saw Shen Jian approaching, he showed an extremely dangerous look. "Who are you? Are you here to kill me too?" "I knew it, I knew someone wanted to harm me. Unfortunately, these people here are a bunch of idiots. They don't believe what I say," patient number 13 murmured. Shen Jian nodded. "Yes, I'm here to harm you. There is an old saying that goes well, when someone suspects that you want to harm someone, you'd better really do it." Unfortunately, Shen Jian really is. Patient No. 13? He was stunned for a moment. Because this was the first time someone had admitted that they wanted to harm him. Usually, even if those people were pointed out by him, they would refuse to admit it and would try to divert his attention and dispel his vigilance. He also said that he was mentally ill and no one wanted to harm him. He has seen it with his own eyes. How can this be false? For example, he once saw a nurse secretly injecting drugs with a needle. It didn't take much for him to know that it was to poison him. Of course, this trick is relatively low level and easy to see through. The more advanced one is to always ambush him, use all means to get close to him, wait until he is most proud of his life, and then kick him into the abyss. So, for his own safety, he took the initiative to move to this mental hospital. Unfortunately, there were still an endless stream of killers. Although he never found a chance to kill him, he firmly believed that these ghosts would take action sooner or later. As for Shen Jian's style of going to meetings alone, it can only be regarded as low level. No. Not even low level. It can only be said that it is very rough, like a newbie in the world of demon slaying. This new killer has a poor psychological quality. How can a killer tell his target directly that he wants to harm you? Patient number 13 had a look of disgust on his face. "Okay, I already know you. Come here next time if you disguise yourself better." Shen Jian took out the bloody skull, medical hammer from his body. The hammer dragged the ground, making a dull sound of metal collision. Shen Jian looked strange and said, "Why should I leave?" Patient number 13 was stunned. "You have already been discovered by me. You see through why I left? I'm here to harm you, silly boy," Shen Jian said gently. Patient No. 13. "Ah. Can it still be like this? This time." The CPU in his skull was running rapidly. It just burned his brain out. He seemed to have never considered this issue. Don't be nervous, bad things can happen at any time anyway. When Shen Jian talked about the medical hammer, he smashed it. Boom. A huge roar resounded. Patient number 13 lowered his head with a dull expression. Less than 10 centimeters from his fifth limb, a blood-stained and fleshy hammer hit him on the ground. That moment, he thought he was dead. I didn't dare to take a breath. The supernatural power lost all resistance in front of this hammer. The next moment, Shen Jian patted patient number 13 on the shoulder from behind. He said in a faint tone, "Guess what weapon I will pull out to deal with you next time? Aren't you paranoid about being persecuted? It shouldn't be difficult for you to guess how you will die. Hear this." Patient number 13 suddenly screamed in terror. My mind began to follow Shen Jian's words and began to think about it. How will he die? How would that human kill him? Did you use a scalpel to cut open his flesh and blood again and again? Did he cut off his limbs with a saw? Still, The more he thought about it, the more frightened patient No 13's face became. His eyes rolled crazily and his limbs trembled violently, as if he could no longer suppress his imagination. And Shen Jian was still inducing him, keep thinking, don't stop. As soon as you stop, your head will be smashed by me. The only one who can save you now is yourself. Use all your imagination to describe what I will do to you. I will choose one of your death methods to fulfill your wish. Ah! Patient number 13 screamed in pain. Don't be afraid, face it bravely, believe me, you can do it. Take a deep breath and recall all the deaths that cause you the most pain. Shen Jian is still trying his best to persuade. After violent shaking, patient number 13 covered his head and fell to the ground. Passed out directly. Shen Jian. Okay, let's play another one to death. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 163. At the same time, the big commotion caused by Shen Jian's treatment of patient number 13 also attracted many doctors to come and check it out. Among them were nuns. When she came to the door of room 404 with a guilty mind, she was stunned by the scene in front of her. Only inside the ward, screams and wails continued to be heard. The patient with the number 13 embroidered on his chest was running around with his head in his arms. There were many dents on his body. At first glance, it was clear that he had been hit by the hammer in Shen Jian's hand. She didn't understand. Doctor, this. Shen Jian did not dodge, but wiped the blood in his hand very calmly. This is part of the treatment. Sister Leah, look at this patient, do you remember what disease he has? Looking at patient number 13 hiding behind other caregivers, the nun was stunned for a moment, and subconsciously said, patient number 13 has extremely severe persecution delusions. He will subconsciously believe that the people around him are harming him. In the later stages of development, he has already not content with avoiding, but choosing to strike first and eradicate the unfavorable factors that threaten you first. Shen Jian nodded. Then how did you treat it? One of the nurse ghosts said, create an absolutely safe environment for him, and use psychological and drug treatment to slowly make him let down his guard against the things around him. Did you succeed? No, his condition has become more serious. Now even the nurses dare not come near here. After all, injecting drugs must use a needle. This thing is absolutely dangerous for patients. Then look at him, do you still think he is a threat to this kind of thing? Shen Jian gestured. Everyone looked around. Patient number 13 was hiding behind a nurse ghost, and the nurse not only held a needle in his hand, but also a saw. In the past, this was definitely a taboo for patient number 13. But now, patient number 13 used this nurse as a protective shield. There is no stress response to dangerous items in the hands of caregivers. The nun ghost's big eyes showed a little doubt. She felt that all this seemed to be inconsistent with the principles of God, but the doctor was indeed helping the patient. Although the process was a bit bloody. But the effects are also visible to the naked eye. Doctor, how did you do it? She asked subconsciously. Shen Jian walked over, grabbed patient No 13's collar and pulled it inside. At the same time, he said, it's very simple. I adopted a completely different treatment from you. Since this patient suffers from persecution delusion, he thinks that someone wants to. If you harm him, I will help him. Because if someone really harms him, it will prove that this patient is not delusional. Ghost nun. Nurses. Strange things around. Darling, they didn't sound like there was any problem at all. If the patient fantasizes that others will harm him, then if he takes action directly, the patient's fantasies will no longer be fantasies. His persecution paranoia turned into precognition. 6. After listening, everyone present scored a 6. This new treatment concept opened the door to a new world for everyone present. Seeing that there was still a trace of compassion on the nun's ghost face, Shen Jian grabbed patient number 13 and said viciously, "Just tell me, has your disease been cured? Do you still think needles, saws and the like are dangerous items?" Number 13. Looking at the hammer in Shen Jian's hand that was bigger than his head, fear flashed in his eyes, and he gritted his teeth and said, "No, I don't think so." This is his truth. Compared with this hammer, the others are really not considered dangerous items. Then do you still think the people around you will harm you? Number 13. Aren't you the one who wants to harm me? Compared with you, a devil, other doctors and nurses are simply angels. He was a little annoyed that he had thought too much in the past and thought those angels wanted to harm him. He shook his head. Feel guilty for the thoughts you have had. Look, another treatment is completed. Shen Jian let go of the other party with satisfaction. The ghost nun blinked. It seems that the patient is really satisfied with the current situation. It's just that the fear of doctors has exceeded the limit. It's a bit like concentrating all sources of danger on doctors, so that other people are not dangerous to him. The paranoia of persecution has changed from a group to an individual. Is this considered a cure? It should be counted. It is normal for doctors who can be sent to maintain order here to have some unique medical methods of their own. Think about it this way. The ghost nun suddenly became enlightened. I felt ashamed that I had misunderstood the doctor's ideas. At this time, one doctor seemed inspired. Dr. Shen, I have a patient who suffers from phobia of sharp objects. He is also afraid of medical equipment such as needles and needles, which makes us unable to start. Is there any way to get the patient to receive treatment? Shen Jian didn't even think about it and said quickly, "This is simple. Since the patient is afraid of sharp weapons and you are unable to do anything, then let the patient change his fear." What do you mean? Dr. Shen, what you said is too profound. In layman's terms, it means making him suffer from other phobias. Shen Jian paused and looked at the medical hammer in his hand, for example, making the patient fear all blunt objects. That way he won't be so afraid of sharp objects. Other doctors and nurses? Then don't you have to worry about the patient suffering from blunt force phobia? A doctor asked a question. Shen Jian gave him a strange look. As long as the right hand hurts enough, the pain in the left hand can be ignored. I am only speaking about your current situation. Of course, he had another therapeutic effect within him. But the nun is also there, so it's hard to tell. Ghosts, awesome. There is nothing wrong with what Dr. Shen said. According to his method, the other party's phobia of sharp objects can indeed be restrained and the disease is indeed resolved. This is a favor. What, another disease? This is an accident. It's a medical malpractice. What does it have to do with Dr. Shen? They still understand this bit of human nature. The doctors and nurses around me all showed kind smiles. Dr. Shen is indeed an expert sent by the headquarters. With him around, the mental hospital seemed to have a guiding light. Dr. Shen, if there are any further symptoms, can we come to you? Shen Jian showed a benevolent smile like a doctor, as long as it is related to the patient, you can come to me. What I can't stand the most is the patient's pain. Well done to Dr. Shen. Dr. Shen's treatment philosophy is completely 100 years ahead of the world. Dr. Shen is awesome. A roar of applause erupted from the surrounding area. This wave of ideas revolutionized the concept of mental hospitals. Dr. Shen fully deserves this praise. Abandoned patient No. 13? Listen to the conversation outside. Patient number 13, who was squatting in the corner, had begun to have shortness of breath and was out of breath. Damn it! Damn it. Originally, he was already very angry when a patient was beaten, intimidated, and threatened by a doctor, and even dragged out to act as a model. But after seeing the situation in front of him, Number 13 realized that the humiliation he had just experienced was nothing. Now this shameless scene left him with a lump in his throat. I beat him, saying that I was treating him, and received support and applause from all the doctors and nurses. Only he was forgotten in the corner, and no one cared about him. Damn it! How could there be such an unworthy man? When it comes to being inappropriate, Number 13 feels that the guy in front of him is better than himself. Resentment continued to accumulate in his heart, so that the place where he had been beaten ached again. After carefully thinking about the scene when I was threatened, I don't know why, but the resentment in my heart gradually dissipated, and I finally followed my heart. That's all. Be a good ghost from now on. Try not to come to this place again. Dejected. The door to room 404 was closed. Listening to the sound that gradually faded away, he squatted beside the bed and buried his head in his knees, looking very helpless. That's all. Surrounded by a group of doctors and nurses. Shen Jian is surrounded by stars. While he was carefully imparting his ideas and experience, the doctors and nurses around him kept nodding. Some of them had already taken notes and took notes, treating them as treasures. For a while, news spread like wildfire that an inspection leader had come to the mental hospital, attracting the attention of others. The 5 players who were scattered were no exception. When they saw Shen Jian, who was surrounded by people who seemed to be leading an inspection, they were all stunned. What's the situation? When did human players do this? This is not about entering a dungeon to survive. This is clearly a thriller game where the sun has come to his own territory. The corners of the players' mouths twitched. They have never seen such an exaggerated scene in the real world. For those who didn't know, I really thought the leader was actually here to inspect the work. At the same time, a doubt appears in the minds of all players. How did he do that? The horror game copy is not friendly to human players, and there are often hidden traps for humans to step on. Let alone being surrounded like Shen Jian, even having friendship with a fierce ghost is difficult to reach the sky. Even if it is a copy of the role-playing mode, this situation cannot happen. What the hell? Maybe he is really the son of horror games. This concludes a period of instruction through words and deeds. Shen Jian got a new case. There were 4 patients who were responsible for spearheading the attack on the mental hospital. Manic patient number 22. Number 13 is a patient with persecution paranoia. Schizophrenia patient number 7. What Shen Jian is holding now is the case of case number 7. Patient No 7. Location, room 501 on the 5th floor. Description: this patient suffers from typical schizophrenia and affective disorder, which mainly manifests as fantasies. He imagines that there is a ghost baby in his belly. He also feels that everyone should have one in their belly. When he is ill, he will forcibly empty out other babies' human belly. Look at cases like this. Shen Jian was thoughtful. Doctor, is this patient not easy to treat? The nun-ghost came over again. Not really. As long as there is no assistant around, it might be inconvenient. Assistant? Yes, this patient's symptoms are a bit serious and may require surgery. Surgery? Can I do it? The nun offered herself a pillow. Okay, let's go. That's all. The 2 came to room 501 on the 5th floor. Open the door. Sitting next to the bed was a woman with crazy eyes. The number 7 was written on the hospital gown on her chest. She was holding a piece of mirror she got from nowhere. She tried her best to open her mouth and looked at her throat desperately. She seemed to suspect there was something in there. Want to prove a point? Shen Jian approached. He also stared at the other person's throat, and then said, "Don't look for it." The ghost babies in the belly are usually very smart. If there is a mirror, they will hide in the mother's body. Ghost nun? She stared at the other person's belly, which was flat. It looks like there is a ghost baby somewhere. Still hiding in the mother's body. Do you think it is a tadpole? Think of this. The nun ghost hurriedly clasped her hands together and murmured in her heart, "Great glorious ghost and God, I hope you can forgive believer Leah for knowing those forbidden knowledge. I didn't mean to think about it." The other side. Upon hearing Shen Jian's words, patient number 7 was stunned for a moment, and then became pleasantly surprised. Finally, someone admits that everyone has a ghost baby inside their belly. But when she raised her head and saw Shen Jian's white coat clearly, a trace of distrust appeared on her face unconsciously. "Doctor, do you really believe what I say?" "Certainly." Shen Jian nodded. He, let me help you take out the ghost baby from your belly. I saw there was a ghost baby running around in your belly." He looked very uncomfortable and could hardly breathe. He needed to take it out immediately. Patient number 7 laughed sadly. His bloodshot eyes were fixed on Shen Jian's belly. With a sinister smile, his hand was already stretched out. Shen Jian's stomach must be hollowed out and the ghost baby inside must be taken out. Shen Jian said, "You are wrong. The ghost baby in my belly has been taken out a long time ago." Patient No 7's movements stagnated. "Took it out? Then why didn't I see it? It's fried." Patient No 7? Do you want to listen to what you are saying? Hear this. Patient No 7's face immediately turned pale. "There's something wrong with this doctor. Doctor, are you going to hurt the child in my belly too? This is my child, no one can touch it." She became extremely emotional. His eyes were bloodshot. "Of course not, but ordinary ghost babies can already leave the mother's body. There seems to be something wrong in your body. Did you do something to him that made him unwilling to be born?" Number 7 lowered his head, lost his mind. "No wonder, he might be resenting me. After all, I was the one who ate him alive in one bite." Shen Jian nodded, "That makes sense. It is difficult to resolve such a huge hatred. The ghost baby in your belly has been fussing for a long time. Ordinary treatments probably won't work anymore. For your safety, I'll help you get rid of it once and for all today. Sister Leah, close the door." Hearing the conversation between the two, the nun ghost was dumbfounded. He went to close the door blankly. Shen Jian laid out the medical equipment one by one. First, patient number 7 was tied to the hospital bed with ghost chains and ghost ropes. He took out the bloody scalpel again. "Patient No 7? Although I am not a doctor and do not understand the medical process. But I'm not a fool. We still know that surgical instruments must be sterile. But this scalpel barely bears the label that it just killed someone. Doctor, are you really a doctor?" She struggled hard. "A doctor who is a genuine doctor." Shen Jian gave an affirmative look. "Then how do you explain the scalpel in your hand? You don't even understand the concept of sterility, yet you dare to say that you are a doctor." Patient number 7 was even more panicked. "I'm afraid some mental patient stole the doctor's white coat and pretended to be a doctor to treat her. She doesn't want it? What a big deal, it's sterile." Shen Jian was startled for a moment, and then showed a hint of disgust. "Think about it." He took the scalpel and rubbed it on patient No 7's hospital gown. "Okay, sterile. Patient No 7. God is so sterile. Do you think rubbing it on me is called sterile?" She was desperate. Is this really a case of meeting a mentally ill person? But that nosy nun is here, so she shouldn't let a mental patient treat her. Is he really a doctor? So can this be done sterilely? At this time, she suddenly heard Shen Jian murmuring something. "Don't be nervous, Xiao Shen, don't be nervous, It will be fine, just relax, relax. Patient number 7 was stunned for a moment and couldn't help but said, "Doctor, my surname is not Shen." Shen Jian glanced at her. "I know, my surname is Shen." As soon as these words came out, patient number 7 was completely stunned. Struggled more violently. "No, Dr. Shen, this won't be your first surgery. Why do I feel that you are not very professional? I want to find another doctor. It is indeed my first time to do surgery, but you have to believe in my professionalism." Shen Jian's face showed displeasure. Although he was indeed not proficient in this technique, with his many years of experience, couldn't he still cut it? A ghost's belly? Too much to underestimate him. "But you look very nervous, and there are no old doctors around to look after you. If an accident occurs, who will make the rescue?" At this moment, the crazy patient No. 7's thinking suddenly seemed to become normal and clear. "Don't worry, I just had a medical accident. This time I have learned my lesson. I am sure. You have to trust the doctor," Shen Jian explained. Patient No. 7? Medical malpractice? Just. How on earth do you expect me to believe you? She was sure now. This doctor is absolutely fake. This nun may also be fake. I don't want to do it anymore. Put me down. I want to go home. Patient number 7 yelled, hoping to attract outside attention. There is a ghost here seeking wealth and death. What a fuss. I have only had a few dozen accidents since I started practicing medicine for half a month. What do you have to worry about with such technology? Shen Jian said confidently. Dozens of accidents in half a month. How many times a day do you rush to assassinate? This time, patient number 7 couldn't hold himself any longer. The yin qi in his body also broke through some kind of restraint at this moment. The aura belonging to the half-step red-clothed level was revealed at this moment. He, I broke through the restraints, I recovered, you two are dead, I will swallow you one by one, he. This moment. Patient number 7 became extremely confident. She broke through the drug control of this damn hospital and regained the horror of half-step in red. She's going to kill here. Hey. She laughed sinisterly, her face was gray, and her whole body was radiating coldness. Amidst the bursts of weird laughter, large areas of scars were revealed on her skin. Her belly was shriveled at first, and then swelled little by little. There were still some small bumps inside that were moving around, as if little hands were touching around. Incredibly penetrating. She looked at the chain that bound her, a little devil's rope, and struggled hard, twice, 3 times with disdain in her heart. Then, the weird smile on his face solidified little by little. She is half-stepped in red. Why can't you break free? Patient number 7 panicked again. And at this time, Shen Jian was also thoughtful. Sure enough, the effect of this drug is not absolute. When he was treating patient number 22 and patient number 13, he discovered that once the patient's emotions fell into extreme panic, the yin energy would more or less leak out. This time, we finally came to this conclusion from patient number 7. Excessive panic will cause the devil to break through the limitations of the medicine. Good. Shen Jian gave full evaluation to the drug developed in the mental hospital. He can intimidate a fierce ghost in this way to make the other party recover. Others would not have such ability. So, he kind of wants to get this medicine. This is undoubtedly the best medicine to suppress the resurgence of evil ghosts. Although he doesn't need it, as the underworld gradually recovers, the number of living yinzai increases. In the future, there will always be yinzai that causes Liggy to revive due to excessive use of Liggy's abilities. At this time, a drug that suppresses ghosts and supernatural powers has become something that everyone is eager to pursue. This can also be regarded as a reward from the underworld for those who perform well. Shen Jian was thoughtful. He is constantly improving his plan for the underworld in his heart. Then, his eyes returned to patient number 7, who became humble again because he was unable to break free. Don't you want to continue struggling? Patient no 7. Now, I can start to operate on you, open the surgery. Doctor, it can't work there, don't, Treatment is over. Patient number 7 was lying on the hospital bed with a look of despair. Her baby, was gone. I was screwed by this scumbag doctor. She could no longer scream, but the doctor still acted on his own, completely ignoring her feelings. The nun couldn't bear to watch this scene. Doctor, does this treatment really work? Of course it works. Didn't you notice that she no longer feels that there is a ghost baby in her belly? If this is not a success, how can it be considered a success? Shen Jian said earnestly, Sister Leah, you can't just see the cruel surface. You have to learn to see beyond the surface to see the inside. As long as the goal is achieved, the process can be ignored. Let me think about it, the religion of the glorious ghosts and gods is also it's stipulated this way. Yes, yes. The nun ghost obviously hesitated a lot. Of course, but now, Sister Leah, can you do me a favor? What's up? It's getting late now. I want to take a rest, but there seems to be no bed here. Can I come over to your side and lie down? I promise I won't do anything. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 164. Doctor, we agreed that we can only stay here for one night. Open the door. A very simple room caught Shen Jian's eyes. A small bed, a desk, and the book prayer on the desk. A nun who resembles an ascetic monk. Shen Jian gave an evaluation. Fortunately, he was able to grow like this in such an environment. He is indeed a natural cow. Shen Jian was speechless. Doctor, please remember your words. At this time, the ghost nun came out of the bathroom. She replaced her original nun's uniform that covered her from head to toe. At this time, she was wearing a short dress with short sleeves, revealing 2 fair arms. The lower body only reaches a little above the knees, revealing a pair of warm and round thighs, which is refreshing. The most terrible thing is that those perfect legs are also wearing a white silk dress. With this outfit, it is really pure and lustful, holiness and lust coexist. Shen Jian glanced over. Compared with the slender ghost wife Suwan, the ghost vice principal's golden ratio, the nun's is more voluptuous. But this is not fat. It's a fighting type that feels comfortable at first glance. Doctor. Noticing that Shen Jian was looking at her legs, the nun twisted her beautiful white legs unnaturally. Sorry, I was just wondering, Sister Leah, why you wear white silk stockings to bed at night. Shen Jian's face was not red, his heart was not beating, as if he was just thinking about a certain problem. The nun was stunned. Then he frowned and shook his head, I can't explain why. I always feel that if you don't cover your legs when you sleep at night, something bad will happen. Shen Jian didn't ask any more questions. Instead, he said seriously, then let's go to sleep. Doctor, am I defiling the rules of the ghosts and gods by doing this? The ghost nun hesitated. Sleeping under the same quilt as a man late at night seems to be a violation of the sexual caution. But the canon also teaches her to help those who are confused. Now the doctor is confused. Need her help. She didn't know what to do for a moment. Shen Jian said step by step, Sister Leah, you also know that I have treated 3 seriously ill patients today. If you give me a little more time, can I restore the mental hospital to its original state? The nun ghost nodded. A flash of admiration flashed in his eyes. This was the only thing she always believed in. Dr. Shen is definitely a knight sent by God to save this place. Then if I don't sleep well, will it affect the treatment process tomorrow? The nun ghost nodded again. Good sleep can really improve your work performance. Then Sister Leah saw that I had nowhere to sleep, so she gave up her place to me. Is it a virtue? And I couldn't bear to let Sister Leah have nowhere to sleep, so I suggested that the two of us go together. Is this a virtue? Share. The nun ghost hesitated for a few seconds, then nodded again. So, Sister Leah, why are you hesitating? Everything we do is in compliance with the canon. Now even the glorious ghosts and gods are here, and they can't find any fault with you. Shen Jian concluded. Before the nun ghost could react, she had already gotten into bed. It seems, right. Hesitating. The nun also gently pinched the quilt at the end of the bed, silently reciting her prayers in her heart, and slowly put her head in. Then his body, then his thighs, until he was completely buried in the bed. Shen Jian only felt a little crowded. The distance between the two is less than 3 centimeters, almost leaning against each other. In the dark, the ghost nun stared with big eyes. Couldn't sleep at all. Doctor, doctor, are you asleep? The nun covered half of her face with the quilt and said softly. No. Shen Jian spoke. With Nephrite at your side, all those who can fall asleep are strong men. He is not. After a few minutes of silence, the nun spoke again. Doctor, can I ask you a question? Little boy or little girl, which one do you prefer? Xiao, why do you ask that? I am a halfway nun, but I actually lived in a monastery when I was a child. The priest there was particularly fond of little boys. He told us that little boys are more likely to be exposed to the truth than little girls. He often taught those boys secretly in private, but refuses to teach us. The nun's eyes were dull. Lost in memories, she kept talking about her past. Shen Jian's eyes were serious. The development of the horror world is really diverse. Just from the 3-acre area in Nanjiang district, he could see the hugeness of the entire horror world. It was definitely a world of its own, and its scale was much larger than the current underworld. There is absolutely no comparison. The monastery Sister Leia mentioned was undoubtedly an industry elsewhere, and its nature should be similar to that of Blood Moon High School. The only thing that made Shen Jian curious was the glorious ghosts and gods behind these churches. This so-called ghost is already using some special supernatural power to harvest the faith of believers. Compared to the Blood Moon High School principal who created strange legends and harvested fear, the other party was the real behemoth. If such a ghost is captured, the 18 levels of hell should be unlocked. Shen Jian thought in his heart. His eyes almost glowed green. He has already captured the Ghost King, and he doesn't mind catching another ghost and god. While thinking, the nun's memories continue. But at that time, I was still very happy, because the nuns and aunts in the convent were very good to me, they all liked me, and I still had so many friends, and talking and talking. The nun's eyes began to turn slightly red, with mists swirling around them. Cry out. No one outside of here will know that the holy and immaculate Sister Leia, who likes to help others, has ever cried. Shen Jian pulled the nun into his arms and comforted her. This time, the ghost nun couldn't hold it any longer, and she burst into tears after years of grievances. Shen Jian felt his chest getting moister, but he didn't say anything more. Because of this experience, he also had one in Sweet Home. That's how the other party cried when comforting a beautiful wife who was overwhelmed by domestic violence. He comforted, and was comforted. As for this one, Shen Jian glanced at it. Sister Ghost Leah. Current status, wronged, sad. Favorability, 55, friendly. Or not. 55 points of favor is only equivalent to ordinary friendship. That's all. By the time Sister Leah's crying stopped, it was already half an hour later. At this moment, the nun's cries stopped, but her head was still buried on Shen Jian's chest. Because she didn't know what to do. How could she cry in the doctor's arms for so long? This made her extremely ashamed and angry. The most important thing is that this ugly appearance was fully visible to the doctor. She no longer knew how to face the doctor. So, she simply buried her head in it. She naively thought that as long as she didn't raise her head, she wouldn't have done any of this. But this is not the way to go. The nun said in a dull voice, "Thank you. It's okay, I didn't do anything." "Oh, I said thank you, doctor, you should just say you're welcome." The nun squirmed in Shen Jian's arms and said shyly. Shen Jian did not expect that such a holy and serious nun would show such a side after crying. This kind of contrast is something that even a man cannot bear. Then, Shen Jian naturally put his hand on her round head and touched it. The ghost nun suddenly became stiff. His whole body trembled. Shen Jian let go with some regret. Because he felt that the other person was like a cat in his arms, and he couldn't help but want to stroke her. Unexpectedly, the favorability level was not enough. Just when Shen Jian thought so. "No. Don't stop, continue." "Shen Jian?" The next second, she seemed to feel that her words were somewhat ambiguous. The nun quickly defended, "Doctor, don't get me wrong. The main reason is that when you touch my head, I feel the same as the nuns and ants. I miss this feeling very much. Can you please do it again? Would you like to touch it for a while? Just a little while." Shen Jian did not hesitate and touched his head again. "It feels more like petting a pet." In particular, the nun would nudge Shen Jian's hand with her head from time to time, making her look more like a pet. A golden retriever Persian. That's all. Shen Jian spent the most innocent night in history. And the nun's favor. Sister Ghost Leah. Favorability, 66, kind. The next day, Shen Jian also obtained the information of the last patient. 3 of the 4 ghosts who took the lead in attacking the mental hospital have been cured, and only the last one remains. Shen Jian took the case and looked at it. Patient No. 2. Location, room 707, 7th floor. Description: this patient suffers from severe obsessive-compulsive disorder. He believes that everything in the world is distorted, walls are distorted, people are distorted, ghosts are distorted, and he is also distorted. Anyone or anything approaching will cause his attacks are without exception and cannot be cured. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 165. After reading the information, Shen Jian had only one thought in his mind. Each one is weirder than the last. Manic patient number 22 is actually world-weary. Number 13, a patient with persecution paranoia, has no idea what it means to be persecuted. Schizophrenia patient number 7 actually lacks emotion and can only use children to express this emotion. And the patient number 2 in front of me. Patients with severe obsessive-compulsive disorder. And it has developed to the most extreme point. Compared with the distorted and exaggerated symptoms of other patients, obsessive-compulsive disorder is actually not a serious disease. Everyone living in the world will have obsessive-compulsive disorder in this area to a greater or lesser extent. It's just within a controllable range. And when this simple disease develops to the extreme and twisted point, it can also create extreme cases like patient number 2. If this gives the other party an extremely powerful supernatural power, then it will be safe, and the seeds of world destruction have not escaped. Dr. Shen, patient number 2, please think again. The headquarters wants to ensure your safety first, and then restore order in the mental hospital. Seeing Shen Jian holding the case book of patient number 2 and looking at it, Li Gui, the supervisor at the beginning, spoke. Any questions? Shen Jian asked. Patient number 2 cannot be treated at all. In that patient's eyes, the world should be flat, lines are straight, everything is symmetrical, and distances are constant. But I don't understand these, but I have seen it with my own eyes. The crazy side of patient 2. The supervisor said with a serious face, his severe obsessive-compulsive disorder is not only directed at others, but also directed at himself. He will count his own hairs one by one, and then pluck out the asymmetrical ones one by one, and compare his body bit by bit. Shave off asymmetrical or unsightly skin. I have been working as a supervisor in a mental hospital for more than 10 years, but this is the first time I have seen such a twisted disease. If we did not try our best to control it, he would shave himself off bit by bit. For him, the only way is to become a human being. The embryo is the most perfect. Shen Jian was thoughtful. Leave the case behind and stride away. Dr. Shen? Have you decided to give up? The supervisor was overjoyed. His future depends on this human being. He has held the position of director of the mental hospital for more than 10 years, and he also wants to move his position. Give up? I seem to have suffered from obsessive-compulsive disorder. I want to communicate with him about my illness. I think we will have a lot in common. Shen Jian said to himself. Director. No, I'm very comfortable with you like this. Wait for me, I'll go with you. Room 707, 7th floor. Open the door. Shen Jian looked inside. There was an alcohol lamp lit in the ward, and the patient in number 2 hospital gown was facing away from the door, with his head buried, and he was carefully burning a scalpel. After the knife was red hot, he took out a polished square mirror fragment, looked behind his right shoulder, looked at it a few times, and then drew it across with the knife. A piece of flesh fell. Ha ha ha, finally aligned, no more, no less, exactly 8 ounces of meat. Shen Jian glanced at it for a few times before looking away and looking at his supervisor. We all know that he has this tendency of self-harm, why do we still give him tools? The supervisor lowered his voice and said, we didn't capture him. He was sent here for treatment. He should still be given the ghost rights he deserves. Shen Jian nodded. The second generation of ghosts. That's no problem. After thinking about it, Shen Jian strode over directly. Patient number 2 also turned around suddenly. Shen Jian looked over. This is a man in his 30s, with a square face and meticulously combed hair. The hospital gown seems to have been specially ironed, and the details are almost perfect. A simple hospital gown gives off the feeling of a formal suit. Seeing the person coming, patient No. 2's face gradually turned gloomy. Stop. Who let you in? Why are your feet so dirty? This is the floor I just mopped. Shen Jian lowered his head. There were rows of footprints on the white ground. It was clearly stepped on by him. The supervisor outside the door looked worried. He had already told him to wear shoe covers before going in, but Shen Jian didn't listen. Now that he has made such a big footprint, if patient number 2 goes crazy, his green-clothed ghost will not be able to stop the red-clad patient. As for Shen Jian, he pondered for a moment, stepped back on the original footprints, then took off his white hospital coat, stepped on it with his feet, and rubbed it all the way up. The footprints were covered by large blood stains on the white coat, which was the blood that Shen Jian was stained while treating schizophrenia patient number 7. But obviously, the ground mopped in this way is dirtier. The supervisor's eyes widened. He made the floor that others had mopped so dirty. Was he trying to drive patient number 2 crazy? Didn't you come here to share your condition? Why does this look like a unilateral provocation? The supervisor couldn't help but take a step forward, wanting to pull Shen Jian and run away. However, when Shen Jian dragged out a wide red line and perfectly repaired the irregularities on both sides, the furious patient number 2 was suddenly stunned. You also have obsessive-compulsive disorder? Are you a doctor? Who says doctors can't get sick? Patient number 2 was still suspicious. He looked at Shen Jian's clothes and sneered again, "Hey, is this a new trick you guys came up with here? Your clothes are not neat at all, and your hairstyle is not symmetrical enough. What do you think? What obsessive-compulsive disorder?" Obsessive-compulsive disorder has more than one form of expression, Shen Jian said patiently. Then tell me specifically, what symptoms do you usually have? Patient number 2 still didn't believe it. After pondering for a few seconds, Shen Jian finally said, "I have 2 examples here." Patient no 2? After hearing Shen Jian's example, he was completely shocked. Damn you. After doing this for a long time, your obsessive-compulsive disorder means you like to force others. It's been a long time since I've lived. And patient number 2 had to admit that the story told by the doctor was very attractive. Grass. Why didn't you say the rest? You have to pay, right? Can you tell me about the process in detail? Patient number 2 suppressed the anger of being deceived and asked the key points first. Anger is temporary, but happiness can be remembered. He could still tell the difference. Shen Jian shook his head and said like a gentleman, "No, you will be blocked." Patient no 2? Are you kidding me? You are not obsessive-compulsive at all. His face darkened. If you don't want to be lewd, you will kill this human being. Superficial. I am a doctor and have a deeper understanding of obsessive-compulsive disorder. Your symptoms are still superficial at best, but I have reached another point where I don't care about small things like neat clothes and symmetrical hair. But I saw some more serious problems in the world. Speaking of this, Shen Jian glanced at the patient with slight contempt. You'd better be able to say such a thing. I don't believe there is anything more unbearable in this world than untidy clothes, asymmetrical things, and uncoordinated placement of objects, patient number 2 said solemnly. Too much, too much. Shen Jian eloquently said, "For example, I just joined this hospital yesterday and became the attending physician here. In one day, I successfully completed the rescue of many patients." "Oh, yes, you all know these people, that's you. Hospital F4. But do you know what these patients did?" Speaking of this, Shen Jian showed a hint of gritted teeth, and his back molars were almost broken. They add up to an odd number. Damn it. I only treated 3 patients yesterday. This is not symmetrical at all. Hear this. This time patient number 2 took a long time to react. Only then did he open his mouth in shock. "Are you talking human language? You are much sicker than me." Patient no 2's face relaxed and he was sure that Shen Jian was a severe obsessive-compulsive disorder patient like him, so his mind became active again. "Brother, you can actually endure those incongruities and successfully apply for a job as a psychiatrist here. In this regard, you are indeed much better than me. Are you interested in joining my plan? I decided to plan another one." The riot allowed more patients to successfully sneak into the sanatorium and rush across the hospital. Patient number 2 looked excited and growled in a low voice. Shen Jian was slightly startled. His face was even more excited than the other person's. "I didn't expect such an unexpected gain. Planning a riot? It is normal for some patients to disappear." He was still thinking about how to make some patients disappear quietly, but he didn't expect that the other party would take the initiative to send them to his door. "This number 2 is a very good person. I'm interested. I'm so interested. I must join in such a meaningful thing." Shen Jian's eyes lit up. Patient number 2 was slapped on the shoulder. "When will I participate? I want to get to know the participating patients now. If they are too weak, I will not reveal their identities." As he spoke, Shen Jian happened to grab a handful of the other party's hospital clothes, causing large wrinkles on patient no 2's flat clothes. Patient No 2. The corner of his mouth twitched. His breathing worsened instantly, his fists were clenched, and veins popped out on his forehead. Ah, what are you doing? He growled angrily. Shen Jian said confidently, my obsessive-compulsive disorder is far more serious than yours. What I like most is forcing others to do things they don't like. I am already terminally ill. This is a subconscious behavior, not intentional. Hearing this, patient number 2 became even more angry. What kind of obsessive-compulsive disorder is this? It's so disturbing. No. You can't go near this person. Otherwise you will go crazy sooner or later. While smoothing the wrinkles on the hospital gown, he stared at Shen Jian. Seeing that Shen Jian wanted to ride on him again, he quickly turned aside. At the same time, he did not forget to say, follow me, that is our secret base, the doctors here don't know about it at all. Shen Jian nodded. Hee, secret base. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 166. While walking on the road, Shen Jian was always curious about a question. How a group of mentally ill patients owned a so-called secret base under the care of mental hospital doctors. Soon, Shen Jian understood. A secret door opened. There were roughly 20 patients in the room. And there are only 4 people who can sit at the table. 3 of the 4 had the numbers number 5, number 4, and number 3 engraved on their chests, and the last one turned out to be a nurse. Shen Jian was slightly surprised in his eyes. The numbers of these patients are all very high. Shen Jian has learned that the higher the number, the more serious the condition, but most patients will not affect other people when they get sick. Unlike the 3 people he had treated before, once they got sick, they were attacked indiscriminately. Of course, this was not what surprised Shen Jian. What really surprised me was that the caregivers in the mental hospital were all mentally ill. In the previous riot, even the nurses in the hospital area were affected. Number 2, why did you bring a doctor here? None of us can pretend to be a doctor. Patient number 3 with long nose said. As soon as these words came out, other patients also looked over. When they are not sick, all the patients here are green-clad ghosts. With so many ghosts looking at them, even the red-shirt ghosts would break out in cold sweat and their legs would get tangled. Patient number 2 resisted the distortion of tearing these companions apart and explained, he is a doctor here, but he is also an out-and-out mental patient, and his illness is more serious than mine. He is an extreme obsessive-compulsive disorder patient. He originally wanted to say special, but after thinking about it, he changed it to extreme. Because specialness cannot reflect this person's abnormality. Hear this. Everyone present was in an uproar. A doctor is actually a mental patient secretly. What kind of disguise is needed to successfully pass the test in a mental hospital and become a doctor? Number 2, this is just your one-sided statement. It is irresponsible for you to bring him here like this. He must pass our test, otherwise this plan is likely to be exposed. Or patient number 3 with a long nose. He never believed that a doctor could be a mental patient. Whatever. Seeing this, patient number 3 looked at Shen Jian. You said you suffer from severe obsessive-compulsive disorder? As far as I know, the root cause of symptoms of mental patients often comes from a terrifying, cruel, and unwilling to mention experience. You tell me briefly about this experience. Shen Jian narrowed his eyes. He has also read the information on mental patient number 3. He is the patient who has served the longest sentence in the mental hospital. Because he has been with the doctor for a long time, he even speaks with a touch of professional interrogation by a doctor. If it weren't for the fact that pretending to be a doctor requires very strong professional knowledge, based on the experience of patient number 3, it would definitely be possible to fake it. A horrible, cruel experience, right? Shen Jian murmured. He seems to be thinking about something. After pondering for a moment, he said, once I was driving, and I happened to meet a mother who was asking for help on the roadside. She was holding her child and waving to me desperately. You also know that I am a doctor who loves to help others by nature, and I couldn't bear to see a mother waiting on the roadside in the middle of the night, so I snatched her child and drove away. Sure enough, the mother stopped waiting and chased my vehicle at a speed of more than 10 meters per second. She kept talking along the way. I heard that she was thanking me for holding her child on the way. After running a certain distance, I kindly returned her child piece by piece. Guess what? The mother was so happy that she insisted on thanking me. I didn't want to, so the other person chased me from behind. Too much obsessed. After that, while the car was driving, I met another person asking for help on the road. He was a poor man who fell on the side of the road because the driver had a hit-and-run accident. He also asked me for help. But do you know? I was driving a sports car and there was someone in the passenger seat. I couldn't treat him at all. Speaking of this, Shen Jian's tone also became regretful. I had no choice but to come up with an extreme idea, which was to crush one of the other party's legs. Then when I called for help, the injury would be enough for the hospital to get out of the car as quickly as possible. But at this rate, it would take an hour for the hospital to get out of the car at the earliest. 1 hour, for a person whose legs were crushed, this hour is basically a death sentence. And I know some first aid skills. After making a difficult decision, I finally stepped on the accelerator and ran over him, allowing him to walk away without pain. Who knew that the mother was still following me, and there was nothing I could do. I also sent the mother away personally. Shen Jian said eloquently. It's a bit artistic, but it doesn't hurt. After all, this is what really happened. After hearing what Shen Jian said was a horrible and cruel experience, all the mental patients present were stunned. Even patient No. 3's mouth twitched. When I say horrific, brutal experiences, I am referring to our experiences as victims. Your experience of being the perpetrator is pretty damn good. He tilted his head and looked at Shen Jian, his left eyebrow raised. Although he didn't speak, his eyes seemed to say, is this also a terrifying experience? Shen Jian's right eyebrow raised, the meaning was obvious, just say whether this experience is scary or not, whether it's cruel or not, right? Patient No. 3. He couldn't argue. This experience is really cruel. But you are not mentally ill, just simply vicious and cruel. Well, you are indeed a psychopath. Patient number 3 admitted with difficulty. Although this is not a mental illness, can anyone refute the fact that the other party can commit such a cruel experience and say that he is mentally ill? I am afraid that even if the experiences of all the patients present were combined, there would not be another such example. I seem to have met this uncle. At this time, a little boy at the table spoke. The number 6 is written on his hospital gown, indicating that he is patient number 6. But looking at his cowardly look, it's really hard to associate him with the mental patients here. And that restrained look made it look like it was his first time participating in such a plan. Patient number 3 said, number 6, he is a doctor. You have seen him and he is normal. The little boy number 6 lowered his head and whispered, but, I saw him at Huangquan Hospital. He seemed to be rescuing pregnant women. Later, when I lived in the hospital, I also heard that he had a relationship with the director there. Closely, I heard from the nurse sister there that Dean Huangquan has been quarreling with other people all day long over this uncle's position as deputy dean. As soon as these words came out, the whole place fell silent instantly. Countless pairs of vicious and violent eyes stared at Shen Jian. It seemed like it would rush up at any moment. Patient number 3 also turned gloomy. Are you the director of Huangquan Hospital? That's the culprit that caused us to be imprisoned here. If it weren't for that woman, we wouldn't be where we are now. You are not a patient, you are an undercover agent who pretends to be a patient and wants to sneak into our place and catch us all. Number 3 came to a conclusion and grinned strangely after speaking. Send it to your door, doctor. You are very brave, but there is no use in being brave. Paper cannot cover the fire. You will die here today. Kill doctors, snatch nurses, and occupy hospitals. Kill him and he will tell us our plan. We can't let him go. Everyone in that woman's faction will die. All the patients in the room became excited. Each one roared solemnly. The other side. Shen Jian's face also darkened. Originally, I wanted to get along with you as equals, and then follow the clues to find out all the unstable factors, but why do you want to expose them? Shen Jian took out the morning stick. With the same weird smile on his face, he said, in that case, I'll give you a ride. Shen Jian didn't hesitate and rushed forward with the morning stick. Old man, don't join in the fun when you're so old. Give me some gold coins. Shen Jian kicked patient number 5 off the table. Then his eyes were fixed on the little boy number 6. He also did not expect that when he was completing the dungeon mission of Huangquan Hospital, there would be a mental patient still living in the hospital. Otherwise, how could his perfect statement be seen through? Children, don't get involved in fights. Come on, uncle will kill you first. Don't let you be led astray by those people. Facing the little boy number 6, Shen Jian gave special care, raised the morning stick in his hand and hit it hard. Boom! The little boy felt that the Tianling cap was about to be knocked to pieces, and his brainstem suddenly sunk, and he suddenly died and fell to the ground. Patient No. 3. I knocked, so hard. Except for Hospital F4, the other patients present had not been injected with drugs. They were all first-class Xingyi level ghosts, and now they were knocked to death with a stick. This is so damn cruel. Looking at this cruel doctor, he suddenly regretted it. If they had known that the other party's strength was so terrifying, they should not have exposed his disguise in public. What they did now would only completely anger the doctor. Hasten their death. And you ugly bitch, I want to wash my eyes 8 times after looking at you. Shen Jian scolded again and knocked out a female patient with maggots on her face with a stick. The patients around him all looked frightened and backed away. At this time, Shen Jian took out the sack from his body and threw it aside. Then he strode over, looked down at patient number 3 with a long nose, grinned at the corner of his mouth, and smiled weirdly. Number 3, you are very good at talking. But what's the use of speaking? When you come out to hang out, you have to talk about fists. Do you understand? Little Yakuza said. Shen Jian raised the morning stick. A slap in the face. Patient number 3 was knocked unconscious without any resistance. Kill him, or we will all die. Seeing this cruel scene, the remaining mental patients all rushed forward with their eyes wide open. Then, screams came out one after another. It spread from the mouths of these patients. Patient number 2 looked at the scene in front of him with dull eyes. I saw Shen Jian wearing a brand new white coat, holding a white bone rod in his hand, like a fierce god, chasing a group of patients alone, rolling up his sleeves and beating him violently. Those evil spirits exuding a terrifying aura of King II level, at this time, it was like meeting his own father, with no resistance at all. Shen Jian became more and more excited as he played. This is performance. This is all about performance. He is a doctor. For the sake of the physical and mental health of his patients, he beats him up regularly to make them feel awe. Is it reasonable? Shen Jian struck down with the stick, and a patient fell straight to the ground. He didn't even have time to escape, and was directly put into a sack. Why are you running? Let God decide whether you are guilty or not. God will not wrong a good person, nor let a bad person go. All the patients. God has come up to heaven to judge. This God must be you. The fleeing mental patients all looked at Shen Jian in fear. But it's no use. 1 time. 2 times. Each time is accompanied by a muffled sound. There was a mental patient who collapsed. Patient number 2, who had been standing at the door like a transparent man, turned pale. He was guilty. It was he who brought the Imperial Army here. But this doctor is really humming sick. We are in the same group. Why can't you put aside this small element and conspire with the doctor? And at this time, Shen Jian was still immersed in playing whack-a-mole, almost to the point of forgetfulness. He has a wealth of experience in how to hit patients hard. After a while, Shen Jian came to patient number 2 carrying the sack. How do you say? Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. I think your obsessive-compulsive disorder is indeed a bit serious. It won't get better without treatment. Do you want me to help you? Patient No. 2. Your treatment will probably not be that simple. His back molars were broken, and he said in humiliation, I can control it. Really? I don't believe it. Shen Jian shook the morning stick. Bits and pieces of blood stained the ground. It left very clear traces. Patient No. 2's eyes immediately turned red, his breathing began to become rapid, and his body was shaking. I really, can, overcome it? The words have not yet finished. Shen Jian put his blood-stained hand on the other party's hospital gown. Patient No. 2. Ah! He was angry. This doctor is not a son of a man. He was already trying to restrain himself, but the other party gave them a double critical hit. Can this be tolerated? Even a man can't bear it? So he was put into a sack. Out of the ward. Shen Jian felt refreshed. His eyes suddenly met the supervisor, who was alerted by the too much movement and came over to check. The two looked at each other. Shen Jian said calmly, I found a group of thugs who were preparing to attack here. For everyone's safety, I rushed over and persuaded them not to do this. But these people attacked me. If it were you, would you be able to bear it? Director. He glanced inside. Blood splattered. Broken limbs and broken arms. Look at Dr. Shen again. All limbs intact. His face was shiny. The white coat below the waist was stained with blood, indicating that he was beating the patient from an absolutely powerful position. Think about it. He said against his will, I really can't bear it. But what about the patients? Oh no, the thugs. Oh, well, I'm going to take these patients away and set up a special ward to study the cases of these patients. These brutal thugs can just be used as experimental materials. Do you have any questions? Director. No problem. That's all. The suppression of the mental hospital was complete. Shen Jian looked at the hidden mission again. Main mission, suppress the riot and restore the mental hospital to its original state. Without the 4 hospital F4 leaders who led the attack and the arrest of potential rioters, the mental hospital is basically safe. Next. It should be to find the patients hidden in the sanatorium. This task is undoubtedly more difficult than the former. But he has the magic weapon to win. Just thinking about it. Shen Jian has already seen the nun-ghost. She was standing at the front desk of the hospital, watching every patient here. Doctor, you are here. The ghost nun looked at Shen Jian with some evasive eyes. She still felt a little guilty about everything last night. For this reason, she prayed for herself in her heart all day long. I hope the glorious ghosts and gods will forgive her for the crimes she committed. Sister Leah, Can you do me a favor? Shen Jian said, there are still several patients hidden in the sanatorium area of this hospital. I need to find them all and let them receive good treatment. But these patients are so well disguised that it's hard for ordinary people to tell them apart. I need your help. The nun was startled. Then he said excitedly, of course I am willing, this is the purpose of my coming here. Then let's go. Spa area. Compared with the depression and seriousness of the hospital area, this place seems much more relaxed. Basically the same as a resort. Those who can live here have some minor problems, but they are not serious enough to become mentally ill. Therefore, as long as the general target group can be targeted, it is not difficult to identify the patients. But how can a patient who can blend in so perfectly and be so disguised that even the doctor can't be spotted be targeted so easily? Shen Jian looked over. Here is a large swimming pool. There are many evil ghosts lying under parasols with their eyes closed. Just when Shen Jian was about to take action, there was a sound of footsteps in the distance. Excuse me, are you a nun? As the voice fell, a thin ghost with sunken features walked over. I'm a nun, what can I do for you? When the nun saw someone looking for her, she greeted them warmly. The concave ghost said with some trepidation, I want to repent for my mistakes. Finish this sentence. The concave ghost looked at Shen Jian warily. It seems to be saying, do you understand the rules? There should be no outsiders during the prayer process. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. Hey, let me go, can't you see that we came together? He was gearing up. I want to teach this little white-clothed ghost a lesson. Let him go and work with those black and thick black slave miners. Doctor, be patient in your prayers. The nun looked at the concave ghost and said, he is a doctor here. He has strict professional ethics and will not tell anything about this place. See this. The concave ghost immediately relaxed and cried loudly, I want to repent, I am guilty. The thing is like this, I have been in poor health since I was a child, and I can only spend most of my time in a room in a nursing home. One day, my cousin brought me a big carp from the human world and told me about boring time. You can tease it to kill time. Since then, this big carp has been accompanying me. I feel that there may be some kind of relationship between me and it. The nun showed a hint of understanding, so, you killed it and ate it, feeling that you had committed a sin, and now you are in pain and regret, right? You are a ghost, what's wrong with this? Wrong. The concave ghost suddenly became excited and retorted loudly, how could I possibly kill it? I even wanted to keep it for the rest of my life. The nun didn't understand. Then why did you come to confess? Because, I found out that I have feelings for this fish. I feed it the best food every day. In order to help it get food from the human world, I save money myself. Isn't this great? You are a kind ghost, and the glorious ghosts and gods will see your good deeds. What? Concave ghosts are like being struck by lightning. You mean that Lord Kishan will see what I do? He yelled, seemingly in disbelief. The nun ghost was startled by his reaction and was speechless. It was Shen Jian who interrupted, Sister Leah, let's hear him out first. I'm a little interested, I want to help him confess. Oh, this is my first time praying for someone, and I'm a little out of control. The ghost nun covered her mouth and nodded. You can continue talking. Hear this. The concave ghost seems to be trapped in memories. As time goes by, I find, I have some strange feelings about it. Later, it was changed to 3 chapters, otherwise I wouldn't be able to order them all. The word count is the same, and the 3 chapters are almost 11,000 words. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigwa. Chapter 167. Listening to the concave ghost story, Shen Jian couldn't help but stand in awe. Warrior, he didn't even dare to try this kind of thing. He didn't expect someone, oh no, a ghost did it. However, the innocent sister Leia didn't understand yet and blinked curiously. In the end, in a daze, I committed something that I regret for the rest of my life. I felt guilt, self-blame, and regret. These negative emotions tortured me for several nights. After I adjusted a little, I wanted to hold a funeral to atone for my sins, but later. I know this is wrong, but I just can't refuse. It's like, a demon has put a curse on me. Yes, it must be because of the demon. Speaking of this, the concave ghost's expression became even more excited. Shen Jian couldn't help but interrupt, so, why did you come here to confess just now? From your description, this shouldn't be a recent incident. Shen Jian fully praised such warriors. Going to the black mining area to mine was too humiliating for him. There is such a thing as a demon. Are there demons in the horror world? Hear this. The concave ghost became even more sad, because turmoil broke out here a few days ago. My cousin came over to visit me because he was worried about me. He found the smelly carp in the refrigerator, but he didn't say anything more. They just buried the fish without telling me, and didn't even give me a chance to say goodbye. Woo. Shen Jian. God said goodbye, you don't plan to come again. After my cousin buried it, he expressed understanding to me and advised me to focus on the real world, but, I can't forget it. I can't forget it. What should I do now? I think of it every night. Without it, I can't sleep all night. The concave ghost looked at the nun helplessly. I can't give you any advice on this. The ghost nun's face was red at this time and her tone was hesitant, obviously she understood. A piece of shocking knowledge was stuffed into her little head. So much so that after listening, he kept his head lowered, and subconsciously shrank half of his body behind Shen Jian, gently tugging on his sleeves. Shen Jian sighed. He said with a serious look, actually, you can't be entirely blamed for this incident. Ah! The concave ghost and the nun-ghost looked at Shen Jian at the same time. The reason why you made the series of mistakes is entirely because you have not learned a reasonable desire to control. Concave ghost? You also know that I am a doctor, and I will encounter all kinds of patients. Patients like you are typical of emotional deficiencies. I have encountered several such patients, and their symptoms are far more serious than yours. Concave ghost. Nun ghost. I realize that I am narrow-minded. I didn't expect that there are so many like-minded companions in this world. These people are all my seniors and a bright light on my road to death. And you, the doctor, saved me. The concave ghost held Shen Jian's hand excitedly. Shen Jian pulled out in disgust, but the other party's face looked sincere, as if it was glowing with oil, and his thoughts were wandering, and he didn't know where he was thinking. Sister Leia gently pulled Shen Jian's clothes, raised her head, and looked like she was hesitant to speak. She lowered her voice and said, "Doctor, is that kind of thing really so difficult to control? Doctor, would you do the same?" Shen Jian. He's not that perverted. Seeing that Shen Jian didn't speak, Sister Leia thought she had guessed it right. Her eyes suddenly turned red and she shook Shen Jian's sleeves. "Doctor, please stop doing this. This will hurt your body. Moreover, such behavior I will not be forgiven by the ghosts and gods." Shen Jian was startled. After thinking about it, he felt a little embarrassed and said, "But, I can't help it. I'll help you." Sister Leia blurted out. Then he realized that such remarks seemed a bit ambiguous, so he whispered, "What I said is, I can use my hands, those things are not hygienic." After thinking about it, this statement is still a bit ambiguous. She hesitated, a little at a loss. "But wouldn't this violate your canon, Sister Leia?" Shen Jian is confused. I am helping the confused doctor. You are the knight sent by Lord Ghost and God to save this place. Your health is above all else. For this, I am willing to be punished by Lord Ghost and God. The ghost nun showed a hint of determination. Then, shall I go over to your place tonight? Shen Jian asked tentatively. Well, I'm not afraid. Perhaps she had made up her mind, but the nun ghost was no longer as shy as before, but had a determined look on her face. But the ruddy color of the earlobes is still very obvious. Obviously, her heart is far from as peaceful as she appears. Shen Jian's expression changed. I can't help but want to take a bite of this mature and holy flower. I want this holy flower to be ravaged by him. I even want the holy nun to be evil, degenerated. And it's because of him. But the current favorability. Sister Ghost Leah. Current status, nervous, shy, determined. Favorability, 70, kind. Shen Jian frowned. Logically speaking, 60 points of favorability would enter the ambiguous stage, but Sister Leah has entered the intimacy stage. Is this because she does not realize that she is a woman and he is a man? Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. It seemed that Sister Leah had to be taught tonight that she was a woman with some weaknesses and that he was a man with some highlights. At this time. By the way, doctor, what's the matter with you here? I've lived here for a long time. I can't say I know everything about this nursing home, but I know about it. The voice of the concave ghost interrupted the ambiguous atmosphere between the two. The ghost nun was startled and her face turned red. Shen Jian's expression changed. To uncover the hidden mental patients in the sanatorium, a nun alone is not enough. She can only uncover the hidden mental patients in person. But how big is the entire sanatorium? If you go from place to place and go through all the trouble, you may be alerted in advance. But with this concave ghost, maybe things are simple. After thinking for a while, Shen Jian said, I want to find out the mental patients hiding here. They are very good at disguising themselves and are just like normal patients. Do you know which ones may be mental patients? The concave ghost was startled. Are there those lunatics mixed in here? Oh my God, this is too dangerous. Doctor, when you said this, I remembered that there seems to be a weird ghost on the same floor as me. It was a little girl who wandered the corridor every day with a sharp knife. I heard other people say that she would hide at the top of the stairs every day and scare the patients who came and went. I thought it was just a child's playfulness, so I didn't pay too much attention to it. But after that little girl came, many patients were discharged from our floor, but they all disappeared overnight. Now that I think about it, they weren't killed by this madman. Speaking of which, the concave ghost's face turned pale. Because his patient next door was discharged from the hospital yesterday. Thinking about it now, he knew the other party well and stayed in the ward all day, so it was impossible for the other party not to come and say goodbye to him. More likely, he was killed. Shen Jian listened. While thinking deeply, he took out the case book. After the attack on the mental hospital, 3 ghosts suddenly disappeared from the hospital area. One of the images seems to be that of a little girl. Shen Jian turned to a page. Patient No. 15. Location, room 401 on the 4th floor, empty. Description, this patient has an antisocial personality, an extremely twisted personality, is prone to revenge, and is extremely murderous. Supplement, the patient unknowingly learned to control his antisocial personality and sneaked into the sanatorium he is currently missing and is extremely dangerous. Finished reading. Shen Jian pondered. Patient number 15 is indeed much smarter than F4 in the hospital. She is obviously the most murderous and mentally ill, but she is able to escape safely in the midst of numerous attacks, perfectly controls her antisocial personality, and sneaks into the sanatorium area, so that doctors and nurses cannot tell the difference. This cunning makes her difficult to catch. But it's a pity. The biggest difference between mentally ill patients and patients is that they will fall ill. Even if you are restrained, it is impossible to restrain yourself for the rest of your life. Otherwise, he would not be a patient, but a normal ghost who had recovered. Take me there, let's fight quickly. Shen Jian took long strides. His mind has already drifted to tonight. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 168. A nursing home. 7th floor. A little girl in a Lolita dress was yawning and looked sleep-deprived. Abruptly, her eyes lit up. There were footsteps in the corridor, someone was coming. It's great, great, it's worth waiting for me for so long. Which unlucky guy is here? You're really unlucky. It happened when I couldn't control it. Just kill one, just one. Those people must not have thought that I directly disguised myself as a child from a powerful family. The little girl wearing a Lolita dress was hiding at the stairs of the 7th floor, holding a pair of blood-stained scissors behind her, with a sweet smile on her face, harmless to humans and animals. Like an innocent child who got a piece of candy. But what she said was horrifying. As the footsteps approached a little closer, the little girl's expression became tighter and tighter, with a hint of sickly flushing. She clenched the scissors in her hand, ready to take action at any time. She can already believe that she will cut this unfortunate guy into 8 pieces, no, it will be cut into 18 or 20 pieces. But suddenly, the footsteps went away again. Little girl? What's the situation? Going downstairs again? Just when the little girl was disappointed, the footsteps came towards this direction again. She didn't have time to think too much, her expression became tense again, very serious. Coming, coming, coming. The little girl looked sickly and looked forward to it. I want to know who the unlucky guy I will kill later is. No, I always feel like I forgot something. At this time, the footsteps in the stairwell stopped suddenly, and a man's voice rang out, "Oh, by the way, I forgot my medical record book. I have to go back and get it." Little girl. You are truly ink. As a 7-year-old, I am more agile than you. Even my 80-year-old mother is here and has already climbed upstairs. Little girl number 15 rolled her eyes. But it's not without value, at least it lets her know that this unfortunate guy is the doctor here. Hello doctor. She was clearly not sick, but those doctors still treated her cruelly. If she could kill a doctor now, it would be considered her contribution to her former mental patients. She decided to wait and see. Children who know how to wait will be treated by a doctor. After a while, footsteps approached again. But not far from the corner, he stopped again. By the way, I don't seem to have picked up the prescription. No, I have to go down and get it again. Again. Huh? Where is my casebook? Did I put it on the bed when I just got the prescription? I have to go back and get it again. Double again. I forgot my white coat, where is the hemp rope, where is my stick? After being let go more than a dozen times, the little girl number 15 behind the wall already had an expression of hopelessness. Damn, you really have a lot to do. She is even more dishonored than my 100-year-old grandmother. Just wait and see. What should I do if the rabbit doesn't take the bait? The little girl leaned against the wall. Her previous expectations and joy were all wiped out by the repeated torture. He even wanted to rush down desperately, hold down the opponent's head, and force him to finish counting everything he wanted to bring. Then he took the scissors and cut the annoying doctor into 2 pieces again and again, causing blood to flow. But she restrained this very well. She is only a Xingyi level ghost, and her supernatural abilities are not very strong. And to be a doctor in a mental hospital, she is at least Xingyi level. She cannot shut up the doctor immediately. Instead, it will be revealed out of thin air that she is the mental patient number 15 who escaped in the first place. So, the little girl could only hide in the dark and take advantage of the doctor's arrival upstairs to deliver an unexpected blow. Only in this way could he completely suppress a Xingyi-level ghost. It seems that I forgot my wife again. No, I don't have a wife at all. Then I must have forgotten my patient's wife. No, I have to go back to get it. At this time, the footsteps outside disappeared again. The little girl number 15 had a sneer on her face, without any mood swings, and she even wanted to laugh. A man's mouth is a liar. If she believed it again, she would be a dog. Just when I was thinking this, suddenly, the door on the side of the safety passage was suddenly smashed open, and a big hand with a cattail leaf fan reached in. Little girl number 15 has dilated pupils. She was repeatedly let go, and when her nerves were just tired, the other party took advantage of this gap to attack her, causing her to be startled and had no time to react. The next moment, in the little girl's horrified eyes, Pu Fan grabbed her neck with his big hand, pulled her hard, and dragged her to the other side of the safe passage. "You sneak attack!" Little girl number 15 screamed. A strong yin energy filled the entire corridor. The little girl's eyes glowed with scarlet blood, her face began to twist, red blood vessels popped out, and blood oozed out. Trying to break free. But very quickly, her little face froze. This hand is like an iron pincer, let alone breaking free, even shaking it is impossible. Xingyi? Wrong. This doctor is in red. At this time, Shen Jian, the owner of the big palm fan, also grinned and said, "Are you surprised?" No 15. The little girl's struggling expression suddenly froze. She understood instantly. This doctor is here to catch her. Damn that stinking doctor, you are not acting now, are you? I know that you have always wanted my life, and sooner or later I will be ruined by you if I stay in the hospital area. Damn it, you really deserve to die. The little girl number 15 stared at Shen Jian with a pair of red eyes, her face full of ferocity. Damn you, I'm going to cut you into 10, no, 15 pieces. She screamed and clawed at Shen Jian. Snapped. Shen Jian walked over with his big dick. He said fiercely, "Don't go crazy, or you won't get a good harvest." Little girl no 15? Dr. Stinky, what on earth do you want to do? If you want to arrest me, arrest me. What do you mean by insulting me? While the little girl was struggling, when she saw Shen Jian raising his hand again, her face froze and she decisively gave up the struggle. Isn't that right? Shen Jian nodded with satisfaction. Why did you just say that those doctors wanted you to die? Hear this. The little girl number 15 suddenly showed extreme hatred, because the reason why I became like this is all caused by the dean here. He said that I am some kind of ghost. I am a powerful ghost created by nature. I have a very powerful supernatural power, so they caught me back and said they wanted to cure me, but in fact they worsened my symptoms every time. Do you really think I can't see it? That dean is a devil, and so is the doctor. I was like an experiment, being manipulated at will. The sicker I got, the happier those people were. They just wanted me to die. Hear this. Shen Jian narrowed his eyes. It seemed that he had come into contact with the core secret behind the mental hospital. I just don't know if Dean Gu knows the secret. Certainly. The problem with number 15 is bigger. He has seen cases. When the mental hospital noticed patient number 15, she had turned into a paranoid with an extremely twisted personality. She wanted to take revenge on everything and was very murderous. This is also summarized in the casebook. Dangerous personality, fond of violence, extreme, dangerous, bloody. He is an out-and-out antisocial element. There's no telling how credible the words coming from the mouth of such a bigot are. But this has no impact on Shen Jian. He has a bold plan. After thinking about it, Shen Jian took the right medicine. I have a very dangerous idea and a very violent move. The process is full of blood. Once successful, there will be a very extreme result. Do you dare to listen? 15th. After hearing this, the little girl's eyes widened significantly, her breathing became rapid, her bloody eyes stared at Shen Jian, and she said urgently, "What plan, what do you want to do? Tell me quickly." "Ha." Shen Jian grinned and said, "Find the director of this hospital, overthrow his rule, cut him into 10, no, 15 pieces, and then I will rule this place. Let the mentally ill build this beautiful home." The little girl listened and savored it carefully. I couldn't help but nod my head repeatedly. The idea of overthrowing the dean's rule here is indeed dangerous, even crazy. Cutting the dean into 15 pieces was bloody enough. Let mental patients build this place and turn it into a beautiful home. This is really extreme, a path she has never imagined. This plan shocked the little girl's heart. But her reason prevailed. The director of the hospital is not an ordinary red-coated level. After so many years of research, I think he is about to break through to the Ghost King level. Unless all the patients in the entire hospital are combined, he will not be able to reach the level of Ghost King. He is the dean's opponent. Shen Jian's eyes lit up. That's enough. Didn't you choose to attack the hospital just to fight for the glimmer of hope of escape? Now that hope is right in front of you, are you going to give up? Are you going to be a coward and hide here like a mouse all day long? Stand up bravely, believe in yourself, and I believe you can transform this hospital. 15th. The little girl was very excited. This doctor is quite provocative. She just felt a faint surge of blood, and she regained the madness that attacked the hospital. If a 3-year-old child had gone there, he would have gotten sick by now. However, she was already 7 years old and had long passed the age where she was easy to fool. She looked at Shen Jian coldly. I agree with your idea. If I have the chance, I would also like to kill the dean. However, the power of this hospital is far greater than you imagine, uncle. We have already failed once. Even a group of like-minded patients have been captured. It is difficult for us to rescue them after they have been injected with drugs. Well, I've rescued him. Shen Jian said casually. 15th. You should be talking about number 22, number 13, number 7, and number 2. With my help, they have broken through the restrictions on drugs, and I have moved them to a safe place for cultivation. In addition, I also invited about 30 patients to participate in this program. 15th. This uncle really has a good plan. I did so much without even realizing it. The little girl was confused. This uncle has done everything he needs to do, so what can she do? Shen Jian smiled slightly. I am now just one step away from leading you to counterattack this hospital. Which step? Little girl number 15 said eagerly. Find out the location of this hospital director. The corners of Shen Jian's mouth curled up slightly. After learning that the dean of the hospital here had set a trap for him, he inquired about the dean's whereabouts, and unexpectedly learned that the dean of the hospital was actually the dean's pursuer. New and old hatreds were added together, and this can he bear it? He is determined to be a bad apprentice who contradicts his master. How can you allow others to take advantage of you? Unfortunately, no one in the whole hospital knew the trace of the director. That being the case, then force the other party to come out. The hospital director personally suppressed the last riot, and this time will be no exception. All it takes is a small stir. It's not a problem to lure out this behind-the-scenes boss. Shen Jian's eyes flashed. He was deeply moved by a fierce ghost who might be close to the level of a ghost king. What makes me even more excited is naturally to take this hospital into my arms. By the time it's time to call him Dean Shen. Mental patients and the like, if a few disappear every day, there should be no problem. Okay, I will help you find the traces of the dean. The thought of seeing the dean of the hospital cut into pieces makes me happy just thinking about it. The little girl number 15 jumped up and down with a smile. Her laughter was as clear as a silver bell, and her petite figure in a clean Lolita dress was so innocent, seemingly filled with all the purity and beauty in the world. However, every word contained vicious thoughts that penetrated deep into her bones. The other person is laughing. Shen Jian was also laughing. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 169. The little girl left on the 15th. With the bloody thought of making this place a river of blood, he jumped to help Shen Jian find the position of the hospital director. For this, Shen Jian doesn't have high hopes. A green-robed level ghost might not be able to find the position of the dean. But that's okay. Anyway, relying on the little girl to instigate a riot was his ultimate goal. Immediately afterwards, Shen Jian took out 2 other case books. Patient No. 19. Location, room 406, 4th floor, empty. Description, this patient suffers from dual personality disorder. The main personality is the wife and the secondary personality is the husband. His temperament changes erratically. 1 second he is talking softly, and the next second he will look struggling and pull out a knife to stab you. Supplement, the patient has now escaped. He is suspected to be able to control the time when the primary and secondary personalities appear, and cannot be investigated. After reading it, Shen Jian couldn't help but think of the man in a suit he met at the villa of the past. That fierce ghost seems to have a so-called dual personality, but the personality is controllable and can effectively increase its strength. As for patient number 19, their personalities are just that of a couple. After turning this page, Shen Jian turned to the next page. Patient No. 35. Location, room 203, 2nd floor, empty. Description, the patient suffers from severe cognitive impairment and believes that he is a potted plant and performs photosynthesis every day. Supplement, the patient has now escaped. The symptoms have no obvious symptoms and are extremely difficult to distinguish. These are the last 2 mental patients hidden in the sanatorium. Compared with the illness of little girl number 15, these 2 people are undoubtedly more secretive. Schizophrenia number 19 manifests itself in the form of a person talking to himself. As long as he hides in a room or a deserted place, he will not be noticed at all. Patient 35's cognitive impairment was even more extreme. When you get sick, just lie down on the hospital bed and bask in the sun to relieve the pain. No wonder the staff here can't tell the difference. Shen Jian looked at it twice and then looked away. In his mind, he recalled the concave ghost story. As for other abnormal symptoms, I once went to the rooftop to commit suicide when I was tortured. However, I heard a couple quarreling on the rooftop. In order not to disturb each other, I waited below for a long time. Finally, I saw a woman came down, but after a long time, the husband didn't come down either, so I walked up, and the rooftop was empty, there was no one else at all. I suspected at that time that the woman was talking to herself and pretending to be 2 characters. The concave ghost's words were recalled in his mind. Shen Jian has arrived at one of the wards. The ward is soundproofed and provides excellent privacy. No matter what happens inside, it will become quiet as long as the door is closed. This is also for the privacy of those powerful people. Shen Jian stood at the door. The voice inside could be heard clearly. If you listen carefully, you will find it a bit creepy. It was a hysterical voice. You scum, are you using my body to go out and mess around again? I have already said, This is my body, not your 2-inch nails. With your short body, I never noticed before that you have such a beautiful heart. When the owner of this body got excited, he seemed to raise his hand and slap the opponent's face several times. Then, without any pause, the voice suddenly became gentle. Wife, it's not what you think. You really misunderstood. I don't even have a body, so how can I use your body to mess with you? Really misunderstood? Misunderstanding? I saw you take off that foxy girl's clothes. Do you really think I can't wake up after I fell into a deep sleep? I saw it with my own eyes. What else do you have to say? The man's voice became trembling. Wife, it's really not what you think. She is just a potted plant. What's more, this is your body. I am powerless. What do you mean? My current body is hindering you, right? Of course not. Disgusting, you scumbag makes me so disgusted. Hear these conversations. Shen Jian was slightly startled. The owner of this sanatorium is undoubtedly patient number 19. But could the potted plant the other party mentioned refer to patient number 35? Is there a connection between these two patients? Thoughtful. Shen Jian pushed open the door to the room. A female ghost wearing a long skirt, with her hair pulled aside, looking like a standard lady, was facing the window, her hair moving in the wind. The facial features are exquisite, but a few bright red slap marks ruin the beauty. I saw a doctor come in. The female ghost's expression obviously changed a lot, and she whispered softly, Doctor, what's the matter? I remember that no one can come in the nursing home unless the patient rings the relevant bell. You've broken the rules. Speaking of this, patient No 19's eyes became dangerous. Don't worry, madam, I don't mean any harm. I'm just here to mediate the conflicts between you. Shenji unlocked the door and strode in. Stand there, and if you come any closer, I will kill you. Patient number 19 raised his hand. A strong yin energy erupted, and an inexplicable supernatural shroud enveloped the place. Don't be impulsive, I'm No 15's friend. Number 15? That crazy loli. The female ghost's voice began to change, and her tone became low and hoarse. Yes, I have a good relationship with her, and I am from the hospital area. I also have a good relationship with Hospital F4. I have helped them break free, and I am planning to overthrow the rule of this hospital and let mental patients come. Build a better home. Shen Jian said very kindly. No 19? Overthrow the rule of the mental hospital? I'm super, we are just hiding in the sanatorium, not sleeping in the sanatorium. How long has it been? When did those madmen plan such a crazy plan again? Both of them were stunned for a while. The husband spoke in a unique low tone, so, you are here to invite us to join? You are a doctor in this hospital. What good will it do to you after this place is overthrown? You know, most patients are prejudiced against doctors. Shen Jian's smile became even brighter, because I also plan to kill the director of the hospital here and replace him. In other words, I will be the new director then. Patient No 19. Damn, he said, why the hospital doctor would get involved. Daking is also a mental illness. Then this is normal. Patient number 19 breathed a sigh of relief and nodded, I understand. When is the plan? What do we need to do? This is not urgent. At this time, Shen Jian changed the topic, I need to solve the problem between you first. I heard you arguing when I came in. I want to know what happened. Otherwise, if you go on strike midway, it will have a big impact on the plan. Big impact. This. Husband number 19 hesitated. You can be absolutely assured that in addition to being a doctor, I am also a gold medal mediator. As you know, in Sweet Home, I have mediated more than a dozen family conflicts there, and every time was perfect, and I have never been complained by a customer. As soon as these words came out, No 19's expression became fierce, and he sneered, "Haha, tell me, you should tell the doctor everything about you running to find a woman, and let him comment." The words fell. His tone returned to its original low tone, and he said with some difficulty, "That's it, weren't there 3 people who escaped with us at that time? In addition to crazy Lolita and my wife, there was also a woman who regarded herself as a potted plant. I met her once in the corridor and she said she was too dry." The husband told what happened. More or less what he heard outside the door. "Haha, let me see how else you can make it up." The wife changed her face and continued to sneer. "It's unfair. She was doing photosynthesis at the time. As you know, plants need to have no obstructions to perform photosynthesis. This is not my business at all." The husband said aggrievedly. "Then what happened to my hand?" The wife's face became darker and she looked furious. This, maybe I bumped into it accidentally." The husband stammered. Shen Jian finished listening. "I also really want to ask him whether this operation is serious or not." But after thinking about it, he decided to confirm it himself. It is everyone's responsibility to care for flowers. "Doctor, you're here to judge, has he cheated?" The wife looked at Shen Jian. Snapped. Shen Jian thought for a while and decided not to ruin other people's happy couple relationships, so he tried to persuade them, "Madam, don't be too aggressive in everything, because when you find a cockroach in your home, there may already be several nests of cockroaches in your home." Shen Jian kindly persuaded. "Hear this." The wife thought for a while, and her face suddenly became more gloomy. "Well said, you scumbag, you asked me to give you 2 hours of wind time, and you called it to let me take a rest, but if it wasn't when I happened to wake up this time, were you already attached to that potted plant? How many things did you do behind my back while I was sleeping?" Husband. Patient number 19 raised his head in shock, as if to say, "Is this what you call mediation? You mediate a die?" "Honey, I really didn't. It was really just that one time. There was no way I would betray you. Just this once." "Okay, you finally admitted it, right?" Patient number 19 was silent. When he looked up again, his wife's fierce expression appeared again. "I was just wondering why you have been so indifferent to me recently. You didn't tuck me in when I went to bed last night. Also, at noon the day before yesterday, the dog yelled at me, but you didn't help me. And last time, I said the medicine in the pharmacy tasted terrible, but you didn't even ask me why I went to the pharmacy. 5 days ago. Half a month ago. Half year ago. 3 years ago. That's enough. Can't you see that this doctor is trying to sow discord? He is trying to drive a wedge between us. He has sinister intentions. I don't know what purpose he has, but he is not pure at heart." The husband suddenly yelled. Looking up at Shen Jian, his pretty red and swollen face revealed an unusually ferocious expression. It was definitely not an expression that a woman could make, but a murderous murderer. And the level of terror on the opponent's body also jumped to half a step in red. The smile in Shen Jian's eyes grew even brighter. Patient No 19's dual personality is relatively not that dangerous, and the research done by the hospital has almost completely studied this patient. In the case book, there are many detailed studies on patient number 19. One of them is that the formation of the personality of this patient's couple was probably caused by each other killing each other. And the results are clear. The wife wins. So you have a body. The husband, for some unknown reason, became his wife's subpersonality. Of course, there is another inference, that is, the so-called subpersonality husband was actually imagined by the wife herself. She killed her husband, but for some reason, her own consciousness separated from the husband's personality. The so-called husband is actually just her fantasy. The reason why the current affair happened was that she subconsciously decided that her husband was such a person. You deserve to die, doctor, I'll kill you now. The husband roared and smiled sadly. Senluo Ghost Claw grabbed Shen Jian. Boom. There was a loud bang. There was no more sound in the ward. Shen Jian walked out of the room. Another pair of desperate mandarin ducks appeared in the sack. After a while, in front of Shen Jian, a scarlet panel emerged. Main mission: suppress the riots and restore the mental hospital to its original state, completed. Shen Jian was not surprised. Generally speaking, you will return after completing the main mission. But he triggered two main quests at once. There is also a normal main line. Main mission: survive for 7 days and take care of the patient, unfinished. Look at the panel. A smile appeared on Shen Jian's lips. After solving this hidden mission, it was finally his turn for his personal main mission. Kill the dean, occupy the hospital, and rob the nuns. Wait for Shen Jian to return to the hospital area. The little girl number 15 said secretly, "Don't you want me to find the director of the hospital? I seem to have found him." Shen Jian was slightly startled. Found it? He didn't expect the other party to find out the position of the hospital director, but he didn't expect this little loli to give him a surprise. Where? The first hospital. First hospital? Is there such a place here? Of course, you are new here, and you don't even know about the first hospital. This was an experimental site set up before the establishment of the mental hospital. It was precisely because the first hospital developed drugs that can suppress ghosts and supernatural powers that the mental hospital was successfully established. According to the old man here, it was with the help of this drug research that the director-level hospital director became the owner of this place. Number 15 said with a proud look. However, according to other patients, the first hospital has long been abandoned, and most of the research has been moved here. However, when I was following a doctor who was acting suspiciously, I accidentally saw the doctor walking towards the electrification hall of the first hospital. Address, and from time to time he murmured something like the dean should be impatient. I didn't dare to get too close for fear of being discovered. But I think the hospital director is there. Speaking of this, the little girl number 15 looked excited and spoke decisively. Shen Jian's eyes moved. There are so many secrets in this hospital. There is such a place as the first hospital. And this place is actually the place where drugs are researched. He came up with the idea of occupying the mental hospital and becoming the director. On the one hand, he simply wanted to arrest the director, and on the other hand, he naturally wanted to get this drug. Now he has one more target. This research group was also wiped out. Everything in this hospital belongs to him. It is also the research department of the underworld. Shen Jian was thoughtful. Turn around and leave. When the little girl number 15 saw this, she showed a sickly flush, which was the excitement of the upcoming killing. Do we want to do it now? It happens to be night. We can use the cover of night to sneak into the first hospital quietly and surprise the doctors there. I've already thought about it. I'll cut them into 10 pieces, no, 15 pieces. It will definitely be a beautiful scene. Snapped. The little girl number 15 got excited and jumped up and down, but was stopped by the sudden sound of the door closing. Only after looking at it did I realize it. This seems to be the nun's room. Little girl no 15? Aren't you planning a night attack? What are you doing? Have you forgotten the agreement between us? The little girl screamed in her heart. Crunch. There was a sound at the door. Shen Jian showed half of his head and said disgustedly, "Go away, don't hinder me from doing business here." Little girl no 15? Was she abandoned? Nonsense. You scumbag, I will throw it away when you are done with it. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 170. Inside the room. Doctor, was there someone outside just now? Just a kitten. Doctor, why do you want me to put on my daytime nun's clothes? It's very uncomfortable to sleep like this. Sister Leah's squirming voice came. Shen Jian looked over. This time she was wearing a nun's uniform. Shen Jian was finally able to take a good look at this rebellious nun's uniform. The robe had two large slits at the hips. The long cloth on the front hangs down to the ground, but it does not feel conservative. Instead, it is more like a cover-up, making people want to peek at the scenery under the cloth. Through the large slit, a pair of fleshy legs covered with black lines appeared and disappeared. Continuing from the thigh down, there is a sexy suspender belt. The pure black stockings made the nun's skin look even more white. Shen Jian's eyes moved. A nun who believes in glorious ghosts and gods and whose heart should be holy and pure, whether it is her appearance, sinful figure, or her clothes, gives people a sense of temptation that is completely opposite to that of a nun. Between the spear and the shield, it adds a sense of excitement that is addictive. This is the greatest temptation in Sister Leah. Let holiness lead to your own downfall. Doctor, I'm still too shy like this. I'd better change back to my normal pajamas. The nun was squirming. She didn't know what was going on. Obviously this nun uniform was her daily dress, but when facing Shen Jian, this outfit made her extremely uncomfortable and she had the urge to run away. No, that's how I like it. Then, I'll start. The nun ghost stopped insisting, closed her eyes, and slowly started groping. Good. She thought to herself. I just felt my brain was dizzy, and I didn't even have any complete thoughts. What happened next? Her head was so dizzy that she couldn't remember it at all. All I know is that this is something that will blaspheme the faith of glorious ghosts and gods just by remembering it. After a busy period, the room also fell into silence. In a daze. When Shen Jian saw the nun ghost getting up, an unusual flash of scarlet seemed to flash in his eyes. He frowned. Because of the aura of the nun ghost, it has soared directly from the previous red-clothed level to the point where it is close to the Ghost King. This level of improvement is faster than riding a rocket. Shen Jian was about to get up. But the nun ghost suddenly held his shoulders. Shen Jian? Did I get banged against the wall? Shen Jian, who originally wanted to break free, put down his hand and let the ghost nun hold his calf tightly. Am I pretty? Her tone was no longer brisk as before, but instead carried an unmistakable coldness. Shen Jian was thoughtful. You are not Sister Leah. In the darkness, the nun looked surprised, and then snorted coldly, you react very quickly. Do you know about dual personalities? I know. Shen Jian nodded, because he had just treated a patient with dual personality today. Sister Leia's reaction in front of her, is the second personality of her dual personality coming out. Oh, it has nothing to do with that. Shen Jian. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. Reverse the primary and secondary positions. From bottom to top. While moving his big hand, he said with a condescending look, tell me, who are you? The nun's face was rosy. Sex, I knew you didn't have good intentions. That stupid sister was defeated by you because she was unprepared for men like you. Her hands are so dirty. Shen Jian said nothing. Just move your hands down. My name is Lila, don't move. Shen Jian was non-committal. What's your relationship with Leah? What's going on? We are evil twins. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. There are records of twin evil spirits in the knowledge of ghost doctors. Dual personality is just the patient's fantasy. In essence, he is still the same person, and there are primary and secondary personalities. But the so-called twin evil spirits are two different individuals sharing the same body. Even in the world of horror, this is extremely rare. So, if you don't shut yourself up, why did you come out? Sister Lila curled her lips and said, "My silly sister doesn't know, but I just heard your conversation with patient number 15. I have to say, you are crazy. Among the humans I have ever seen, you are also the most special one, but I advise you not to go to the first hospital." "What's the meaning?" After being silent for a long time, Shen Jian started to move around again, and she hurriedly said, "Weren't you curious before about why the number 1 patient in this hospital is vacant?" "Because that patient number 1 is me. My supernatural power can unconditionally suppress a powerful ghost, even the king of ghosts. When the first hospital was established, I was accidentally known by this group of people and was brutally arrested. They developed the so-called number 1 from me. Drugs, an accident, I escaped there, but the impact of the experiment on me could not be recovered at all, so the twin I suppressed took over my body and became the sister Leah you know." A slight surprise flashed in Shen Jian's eyes. Unconditionally suppressing a powerful ghost, even a ghost king, this supernatural power is indeed powerful. It can be called unsolvable. Among the supernatural things Shen Jian saw, he also knew that ghosts could compete with each other. "So, what does this have to do with me going to the first hospital?" Shen Jian spoke. Lila looked at Shen Jian as if she were an idiot. "My supernatural power rests on a ghost heart, and my ghost heart is now in the first hospital, being held by the director of the hospital. Do you know now? Even if a ghost king runs to attack the first hospital, he will be imprisoned and turned into experimental material. Leah is very fond of you. Although your intentions are not pure, you are still Leah's first friend. I don't think she wants to see you die." Lila pouted. Said reluctantly. Shen Jian fell into deep thought. "In other words, you are 2 souls and 2 personalities. If I were like this, would you feel twice as happy?" Said. Shen Jian's palm slowly moved down. "Lila? Are you thinking deeply about this kind of thing just now? Hey, did you hear that? The first hospital is very dangerous. Once discovered by the director of the hospital, you, a human being, will definitely die without a burial place. Even if you are someone sent from the headquarters, the other party will not. I will show mercy. Then I'm more interested." Shen Jian's smile became even brighter. The deeper the opponent's background, the more he will gain after occupying the mental hospital, and the better the quality of the ghosts he can catch. "Are you, really sure?" See, Shen Jian is so confident. Lila also hesitated and said coyly. "If you are really sure, can you get my ghost heart back?" Trigger side mission. Side mission, help Lila find her ghost heart. Note, this task is not a copy stage task and players can refuse it. Look at the display above. Shen Jian. What's in it for me? I can use it too. Li has already used it, what do you think you should use? The next day. Sister Leah got up and washed herself. "Oh my God, why did I get up so late today? Great glory ghost, I hope you forgive Leah for her sins. I didn't stay in bed on purpose." After a while of fussing, Sister Leah noticed a breakfast sitting on the table. There is also a note underneath. I agreed. The other side. Shen Jian has followed the little girl number 15 to the location of the first hospital. "Uncle, aren't we going to launch a patient riot and attack the number 1 hospital? Why are there just the 2 of us? Where are number 22, number 13, number 7, and no 2? The little girl noticed something was wrong and yelled to leave. She wanted the mental hospital to become a river of blood and cause massacres, but she was not a fool. Without the help of other mentally ill patients, she and the doctor alone would have died. She was hiding far away from the hospital, not just to be sent back to the hospital ward. You have no choice." Shen Jian lifted up the collar of the little girl number 15. "Entered this first hospital. You uncle, if I trust you again, I will be a dog."